The story starts with a detail so ordinary most people overlook it, yet it quietly shaped survival in some of the harshest military outposts of the 20th century. During the Cold War, when the world split between rival doctrines and silent fronts, military engineers uncovered a roofing method so effective that it was quietly restricted. It wasn't classified in the sense of nuclear secrets or missile guidance systems, but field manuals omitted it, instructors were told to prioritize standard doctrine, and soldiers who knew it were encouraged not to pass it along outside their units. The reason was simple. The method produced roofs that resisted snow load, moisture, heat loss and sabotage far better than anything found in civilian construction. And today, very few people outside Cold War engineering circles even know it existed. This video dives deep into that forgotten technique, explains why it worked, rebuilds the logic behind the soldiers who used it, and shows how you can apply the same principles in modern off-grid cabins, barns, storm shelters, and survival structures. The method relied on a layered system that controlled heat, moisture, and load simultaneously. Unlike civilian builders, Cold War engineers didn't design roofs for comfort. They built for endurance. Standard roofing, timber rafters, sheathing and shingles failed too easily in northern outposts where temperatures swung from freezing fog to blizzard in a few hours. What soldiers turned to instead was a multi-layered system that treated the roof not as a lid, but as a pressure-managing membrane. They learned that snow and ice didn't just sit on a roof. They interacted with trapped heat, warm vapor, and air pressure. If any one of those factors got out of balance, the structure weakened. So their answer was to create a sequence of layers that force moisture outward while, keeping warmth locked inside the structure. The first layer was dense sheathing, usually thick planks or plywood, laid tightly with no gaps whatsoever. The second was a reflective layer, which could be aluminum foil tar-impregnated cloth, or, even fuel-soaked canvas when supplies were a bit scarce. The third was a thick insulating layer made from whatever was available at the time. Mineral wool, sawdust, shredded uniform padding, or felted fibres. And the fourth and final layer was a flexible and semi-breathable outer skin, often tar paper or military-grade canvas coated with resin. What made this setup truly remarkable was that, each layer did a specific job. The reflective barrier sent radiant heat back into the shelter. The insulation slowed conductive loss. The outer skin stopped wind-driven moisture, but still allowed trapped vapor to escape. As the system stabilized, snow piled on top, and instead of being a structural threat, it actually turned into a passive insulating cap. The secret, really, lay in heat and vapor control rather than brute strength. Cold War engineers, they figured out that snow load didn't actually collapse roofs because the snow was heavy. It happened because roofs leaked just enough heat to melt the snow from below. That meltwater would then seep downward, refreeze inside the roof, expand, and slowly split the structure from within. Soldiers had a name for this. They called it the icejack. Even thick beams, believe it or not, couldn't resist it. The restricted technique, it prevented icejacking entirely. By blocking radiant heat escape, the reflective layer kept the roof cold. By keeping vapour inside the shelter rather than letting it leak upward, the insulation avoided moisture accumulation in the roof layers themselves. And by allowing the outer layer to breathe just enough, the system vented excess moisture outward instead of into the rafters. In practical terms, the roof didn't warm the snow, so it never melted. Snow stayed dry and powdery, adding insulation instead of structural stress. The result was a roof that could hold months' worth of Arctic build-up without sagging. Modern builders can, apply this technique without needing any military-issue materials. This isn't just historical trivia. Actually, it's one of the most practical pieces of field engineering ever developed. With just simple materials, anyone building off-grid can reproduce the Cold War layering system. Start with a solid deck made from tightly joined boards. Add a radiant barrier. Modern aluminum foil insulation works perfectly, but even thick kitchen foil glued onto craft paper will, replicate the effect. Add a thick insulating layer. Sawdust packed inside cloth sleeves works, as does wool or felt. Finally, add an outer covering like heavy canvas, treated with linseed oil mix or modern roofing underlayment. The key is sequence and balance. If you reverse the reflective and insulation layers or seal the outer layer too tightly, the system loses its ability to vent. If you skip the reflective layer, heat bleeds upward and you'll get melt-freeze cycles. And if you skip the insulation, the interior loses heat faster than the roof can protect it. For a small off-grid shelter, the method is, straightforward. Build rafters, lay your deck boards, attach foil barrier, add insulation, pull heavy canvas or underlayment tightly across the top and tack it in place. Leave a small vent space near the ridgeline to allow vapour to escape. When snowfall comes, let it accumulate. It becomes part of the system rather than a threat. This forgotten roofing method, believe it or not, still outperforms many modern designs. What made Cold War soldiers reluctant to spread this technique was partly bureaucracy, but also the fact that this method produced durability beyond what civilian construction norms allowed or certified. It made structures harder to detect from aerial thermal imaging. It removed the need for constant snow shoveling in Arctic regions. And, it produced roofs that lasted far longer than expected under harsh conditions. For survivalists, homesteaders, bushcrafters, or anyone who wants to build shelters that can take real punishment, this is honestly one of those rare historical methods that deserves to return to active use. If you want more deep dives into forgotten engineering, ancient survival tricks, and the practical methods that kept soldiers and settlers alive, make sure you subscribe to In the Beginning and share this video with fellow history enthusiasts.